Ma'am, can you record this? So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
see.
it will be recorded on YouTube.
Ah, okay, YouTube. Okay, fine.
Yeah, so I'll share with you the link. Okay, so we are live on my YouTube channel, and those who are here, thank you so much for joining. Uh, okay, so if you go to the YouTube channel, you will find that this is being streamed live. Okay. Wait, let me check my account and see. Yeah, we are going live. You will find. All right. So thank you so much for coming uh, to this session at such a short notice. And I see that those who are already there in the MYP, they have come here to know about backward design. So it's good idea that we have people who know about it. Maybe a couple of people who are new and will benefit. You can ask me questions as we go through the presentation. Yeah. So let me share my screen and I will share the presentation with you. Okay. So I've created this presentation using my subscription for Gamma.app. And as we know, this particular method framework we use for unit planning when we are doing MYP unit planning. Okay, so this framework is by backward design. Okay, so this is used for planning your curriculum. So right now we will be using it in order to plan our unit plan. Okay, so let us know more about this first. So, what are the stages of backward design? So, when you say backward design and we use it for unit planning, then what do we do? Okay, the very first thing that you need to do is you need to identify what your results are. At the end of the unit, what are the things that the students should know, should understand, and should be able to do because of this learning experience. Okay, so first you should know what are the desired results. That means you should know your learning objectives and learning outcomes. Learning objectives are for the teachers, learning outcomes, what the students will show after the teacher has taught those objectives. Okay, so these have to be very clear. So what you need to do is have your learning goals uh, ready. Okay, align it with the standards that you are following. If you are following a particular curriculum, then get all those curriculum standards. Okay, and have the learning objectives, because then you will get to know how your students have done, because that learning objectives, whatever is there, should be visible in the assessment. Okay, so first you get your learning objectives and learning outcomes very clear. What I would also suggest is that get your content very clear. What content do you want to teach, or what concepts are you going to teach your students for this unit? That you get very clear. Okay, once you do that, then the second stage is for determining acceptable evidence. What are the evidences that uh, you need to effectively measure what the students have understood because of this teaching this unit? Okay, so that is your assessments. You will have to think about different types of assessments, formative assessments, summative assessments, and these assessments have to be aligned with your learning objectives. So first thing, know the content, know your learning objectives, what are your learning outcomes. Okay, and the second thing is what are the assessments that you're going to take uh, because the students have understood these learning objectives. Okay, so what are your formative assessments, what are your summative assessments? That is the second part. Now once you know what is to be taught and how are you going to assess, then you start planning your learning experiences. Okay, then you plan the action part of the unit. Okay, uh, what will you do in the third part? You will design activities. You will look at inquiry-based learning. Think about what model do you want to use. What I recommend is the 5E model. When you use the 5E model, then you will be making the students go through the inquiry cycle. Okay. Uh, then you also, when you are designing your activities, keep in mind what ATL skills need to be taught. Okay, and what are the skills that the needs that the student needs in order to do the summative assessment. Okay, so all those learning experiences have to be included in the third part where you are planning. So this is it. So three things. First, know your learning objectives, learning outcomes, content. Then go to what will be the assessments. What will how will students show that they have learned whatever you're trying to teach, and then you put in all your activities and learning experiences in place. Okay, so this is the main steps that you follow for backward design. Okay, now what are the benefits of backward design? When you do that, uh, there will be a strong alignment between what the learning goals are, what are the assessments, and how are you going to teach. Okay, so you goals, and because you are teaching the learning objectives, the same learning objectives are then assessed. Okay, and for assessing the to get the end product, okay, how the evidence of learning from the students, what all instructional strategies will you include in your instruction, okay, in your learning experiences. So there is alignment of all these three things, and this clarity will help both the students and the teachers to understand what the expectations are and how can we achieve the expectations. Okay, so alignment is one thing. Secondly, you start with the student design learning outcomes. Okay, so it is student centered. You look at how you're going to teach your students. Okay, so the shift is from just not covering content, but to ensure that the students have a good understanding and deep understanding of the content and concept that you want to teach, and students can apply this knowledge in meaningful ways. Okay, so second is student centered learning. Now, when you do backward planning, okay, you intentionally plan the curriculum. Okay, it will help to have to create a very effective learning experience. So intentional curriculum planning happens because of backward design. And last thing is it will give clarity to both students and teachers, because it will tell what the students should know, what they should understand, and what they should be able to do. And therefore, the shared understanding will help to focus on everyone's effort, and it will also create a more successful learning environment. Okay, so these are the benefits of backward design. Now, there are many challenges that the teachers may face when they are doing this. Teachers feel that when they are, can we mute? So the challenges that the teachers feel that they would face while planning unity, flexibility, and prior knowledge. Okay, but when you do this by backward design, then you will overcome these challenges. Okay, you will be able to overcome the time commitment, because you need you will know that how much time will the students need in order to understand all that you're trying to teach, and you will design assessments that will be aligned with the learning objective. And once you know that, okay, this is the evidence of learning, then you will decide, okay, how am I going to teach to the students? What strategies am I going to use in order that the students are able to do that assessment? Okay, so the time commitment could be a challenge, but then I think when you plan intentionally, then this should not be a problem. Now, when you are using this backward design, you should ensure that you have all these things in place. Now, what all things to be put in place? You should have all the learning objectives. Okay. So the SGO that you create, see that you have included the learning objectives. Also, with the MYP, because it's a curriculum framework, you don't have a definite content. So you decide what content you want to teach. Okay. So you should have your learning objectives and the content ready with you. And then based on the assessment criteria and based on what all assessments you need to do in your subject, okay, you decide what the summative assessment could be. Like for example, when you have science, criteria A is knowledge and understanding, which most cases you do a test. So criteria A, any of the unit you can, assess with criteria A. But then criteria B, C is a lab investigation. Criteria D is a research report. So you will really have to see your unit when you're planning your unit, what kind of content you have and what are the concepts that you're teaching in order to decide what your summative assessment will be. So once you have your learning objectives and content and your summative assessment, then you decide on the learning instruction, what you are going to teach in the class, what ATLs are you going to teach explicitly in order that the students are successful in the summative assessment. Okay, so that alignment should be there. Now, there could be challenges in flexibility. Okay, teachers may need to be flexible and adjust their teaching learning based on the student needs. Okay, so flexibility is important, but it could also offer, may pose as a challenge. So you will have to think about how you're going to differentiate your instruction, and based on that, you use this planning method. Okay. Now, prior knowledge is very important for your students. Testing the prior knowledge, finding out what the students already know. Okay. So when you are designing your unit planning, please take into account the different levels of prior knowledge and the skills that are there amongst your students. Okay. So that everyone has the opportunity to succeed. So it should not be that some students have all the knowledge and therefore you are neglecting them and you are not challenging them enough. So yeah, finding out prior knowledge of your students is important when you are doing, when you're using this particular framework. Now, what is the difference between backward design and traditional planning? So if you look at the focus in backward design, the focus is your learning outcomes. Whereas in traditional planning, earlier when you used to plan before, it used to be the covering up of your content. How much content can you cover? That would be the focus. In backward design, the sequence of planning is, first you need to know what is the desired results, okay, the learning objectives and your learning outcomes. Then you need to know what your summative assessments are, and then you decide how you are going to teach the students the different learning experiences so that they are successful in the assessment that you're going to give. Okay, so that's the sequence of planning. Whereas in traditional planning, you had the content, you were given the objectives, and then you took the assessment. So that was the sequence. But in backward planning, the sequence is different. Now, alignment, when you look at the alignment, there is strong alignment between the three components. Once you know that, okay, these are the learning objectives and this is the summative assessment that I need to take in order to find what the students know, then what I'll do is I will plan all the instructional strategies and content and all the activities that I do, concept-based learning, inquiry-based learning, differentiated instructions, all those things I can plan but so that the students are successful in doing their summative assessment. Okay, so that's why there is strong alignment. Whereas in traditional planning, there is a misalignment because you are looking at content is given, objectives is given, and then you are looking at assessment. So may not be that it may not happen that the assessments are aligned with the what you are teaching and what the objectives are. Okay. So that is a very important point for backward design, why it is better than traditional planning. And you also see that backward design is emphasizing student understanding. So therefore, student is in the center of the learning, whereas traditional planning mostly it is teacher centered. The teacher decides what to teach, how to teach, and how to assess. Okay. Now, if you look at the backward design in MYP unit planning, how will you do? First, you establish the purpose of the unit. Okay. Uh, Now, before you do the key concept, related concept, global context, statement of inquiry, and inquiry questions, what I prefer to do is write down the content. What is the content of that unit? What do you want to teach in terms of content? Okay. And then you decide your concepts, the content, concepts, okay, learning objectives. When you have the content, you will also have the learning objectives. Okay. If you are using the IGCSE syllabus for determining content, then the learning objectives are similar to the content that you're going to teach. Okay. So that you know first. Then what I would say is think about what assessment you want to do. Okay, what summative assessment would you want to give? If this is the content or the concept that I want to teach my students, then what will be my assessment that I'm going to take, the summative assessment? Once I know that, because they have to have a relationship, right? Once I know that, then I will look at, okay, what will be my key concept, what will be my related concept, and what will be my global context. And once I know that, those things, I will create my statement of inquiry and ensure that my statement of inquiry has a relationship with my summative assessment. Okay, somewhere the summative assessment should have a relationship with the SOI, the statement of inquiry. And if I have decided, okay, research report is the summative assessment for biology, then what are the skills that I need to teach? What are the ATL skills that I need to teach explicitly so that the students are successful in doing that research report or in doing the criteria D? So if it is research, if it is information literacy skill, then what information literacy skills am I going to teach? If it is something where the students have to think critically, then what are the strategies that I'm going to use in order to, or what VTR, visual thinking routines, can I use in order that the students' critical thinking is developed? Okay, so I would do that. And then I would plan the learning experiences. So first thing, content, concept, learning objective, get that very clear. Then you decide what your summative assessment will be. And then you look at your key concept, related concept, global context, and SOI, and ensure that these have a connection. The three, they triangulate, okay? The SOI, the summative assessment, and the ATL skills, they triangulate, and then you teach what needs to be taught to your students. Okay? So, how will it look in different subjects? So, if I look at language and literature, suppose the unit title is Voices of Change, Protest Literature, if that's the case, and the concept is communication, and my global context is fairness and development, then what are my desired results? What are the learning objectives that I need to, assess at the end of the lesson? So the students understand how authors use literary devices and genre conventions to advocate for social change. So if that is my learning objective, then what will be my summative? I would think about that. My summative is writing and presenting an original protest poem or speech. Criterion C and D, and my formative would be close reading. And I will look at, oh, what should be my statement of inquiry? Authors use genre and theme to challenge power and inspire change. So if that is the statement of inquiry, you can see that there is a direct link between the statement of inquiry and my summative assessment, right? Now, if this is my summative assessment and that is my learning objective, what should be my learning experiences? Then I think that, okay, now if I have to assess this, write and present an original protest poem or speech, or my formative assessment, giving them feedback would be based on close reading analysis. Then what should my learning experiences be? What should I teach in my class? I will teach them to analyze protest poems. Okay, I will make them study rhetorical devices and literary techniques, and I will have a workshop writing session and peer critic circles as a part of the strategy of teaching the skills. Okay, and then you know that when these learning experiences are there, the student will be able to do the summative assessment. Okay, another example of language acquisition, Spanish. Okay, the unit title for grade 7 is My Community. If I look at my desired results or my learning objective, it says students can describe their community and daily routines using present tense and vocabulary for places or people in Spanish. And what do I want them to do in summative is create a short video tour of their neighborhood in the target language. And the formative would be vocabulary quizzes, role play, conversations about daily life. Now, if this is the summative, then what will be my statement of inquiry? Understanding the language of identity helps us connect with others and our community. Right? So there is a direct relationship between the statement of inquiry and the summative assessment. Okay, and then you teach the learning experiences. If the students have to do this as a summative, okay, create short video tour of their neighborhood in the target language in Spanish, then what all learning experiences will you have in your class? You will help them build vocabulary, okay, through different activities which is focused on community and daily routines. You will give them listening comprehension exercises with native speakers. You will make them practice sentence structures, peer interviews about the community. So these are learning experiences you will do, right? So when you do this, the student will be able to do your summative. Okay, any questions about this? Any questions?
Ma'am, one example from science, if you could give, that would be great.
Oh,
Yes,
but
I have the same question.
when I stopped sharing, then only you all wanted to. Okay, I have put examples. 1 minute, let me share my screen. Okay, sciences I have given for biology. So if look at the desired results first, okay, students understand how body systems work together to maintain homeostasis. So I want to teach homeostasis to my students. Okay, so what will be my summative assessment? My summative assessment is to design and conduct an experiment investigating a homeostatic response. Heartbeat and exercise criterion B and C. So my formative will also be some lab report because I have to teach them how to do the summative. Yeah. So now, if that is my assessment, then what would be my concept that I'm going to teach? Of course, because it is homeostasis and body, it's about body system. I will be talking about systems. That will be my key concept. Function and transformation would be the related concepts because we are looking at how systems are working together, okay, functioning together. And scientific and technical innovation because I'm looking at designing a experiment to investigate homeostatic response. So my statement of inquiry is therefore living systems use feedback mechanisms to maintain balance and respond to change. Okay. Now, because this is my statement of inquiry and my summative assessment, what will be my learning experiences? What will I teach them in my class during lessons? I will teach them dissection models, data collection lab, analysis of real medical case studies, and simulation activities. When they do that, then they will able to do the summative assessment, right? Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Science का example. Okay, you all got it?
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Okay, tell me now. What questions do you have? So when you are
Um,
doing the planning, do
Ashika,
the
your network seems to be weak. The voice is breaking.
okay.
Yeah, in between.
Acha. Okay. So ah okay. Any questions about unit planning? Because I have, in fact, yesterday and today, I have had people talk me about unit planning, how to do unit planning, how to design learning experiences. Because I think this is the beginning of the academic year and everybody are busy making their designing their first unit plan. So I thought that this looking at you following it when I had to make my unit planners when I was teaching the to have as a group in order to understand how do you decide how to do the unit planning? Do you go first with okay, this is the key concept, or do you go with content first? Can anybody hear me or no? Hello? Oh, so my question was, is there any other method
Ma'am, we couldn't hear you at all. Can you type? It's lagging.
I think the screen is frozen,
Okay,
ma'am.
so if there are no questions, then I will just end my explanation. Okay, I will stop streaming. We can have a discussion after I stop streaming. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming here. Let me stop my video. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So what happened? We lost connection.
Ma'am, your voice was lagging and suddenly you went out,
Disappeared.
then you came in. I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay,
Ma'am,
you have any questions about backward design?
what was your last question? It was completely like
Okay, I asked that if you all use any other method of for unit planning. How do you plan your units?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes, Monali.
Yeah, I am having one question. If you can guide us for the planning of integrated sciences for MYP4 in a way that it will help the kids to cover all, that is physics, chemistry, and bio, equally for MYP5E assessments. So, what could be the strategy for that?
Okay. So you offer MYP integrated science.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you
Hmm.
look at the content, okay,
Okay.
the
Hmm.
content is only 80% of what is taught in discrete sciences, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
And students have to, once they finish grade 9 and 10, when they go to DP, so
Hmm.
if a student has to take HL physics or HL biology or HL chemistry, okay,
Okay.
so
Yes,
there
ma'am.
is a gap
Hmm.
in content, right?
Yes.
If you do integrated science.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
Yes.
then how will you ensure that the students have this basic understanding of all the three sciences and they have not missed out on that gap? What will you do as a department? Tell me.
Oh, can we have, if let us say that if they have taken integrated science, when they come in DP1, a bridge program or a bridge course for the child of that
But then,
particular
but
subject.
then जब डीपी में आएंगे तो डीपी का ही कंटेंट इतना ज्यादा है कि कोई
Hmm.
को टाइम नहीं देगा ब्रिज प्रोग्राम के लिए.
Okay, so ma'am, can we do that way that in MYP 4 and MYP 5, in integrated sciences itself, if we keep that depth so that it will help the child and they appear for integrated sciences, but the depth is given to that way.
But then will you be able to finish the portion? Will you be able to give the students that much time?
Hmm.
Do you have enough lessons?
Okay, means if I plan my lessons accordingly, that integrated sciences in all the units, if I'm able to cover more depth with more number of lectures given to me for the same topic, then could that go well as a
Okay.
good planning?
Can anyone give me a solution? I have the solution. Okay? I have a solution. But can you give me a solution?